Let me ask you something, Gabriel.
Go for it.
Do you know someone, and I think we all do, who just seems to have constant bad luck? Like, no matter what happens, something always goes wrong for them. The universe is just conspiring against them.
Oh, absolutely. The person whose car breaks down on the same day their boss yells at them, and then they get a parking ticket. It's always a cascade of disasters.
Exactly, a cascade. But what if I told you that for a lot of these people, it's not actually bad luck? Or the friend who is always in a feud with someone. First, it was a coworker, then a neighbor, then their own family member. There's always a new antagonist in the drama of their life.
It looks like a pattern.
It's a psychological wiring. Today on the Behavior Code, we're diving deep into the psychology of people who always play the victim, why they do it, what it means, and maybe most importantly, how to deal with it, and how to make sure you don't become one yourself.
This is a big one, because it's so easy to fall into that trap, and it's even harder when you're dealing with someone who's stuck in it.
It really is. So let's get into it. What is a victim mentality?
Well, at its core, it's a personality trait where a person tends to see themselves as a victim of the negative actions of others, even when there's no evidence. It's a lens through which they see the world. And it's built on a few key pillars. The first, and maybe the biggest, is something called an external locus of control.
Right, locus of control. That's about where you believe power resides, right?
Exactly. Someone with an internal locus of control believes they are in charge of their own life. Their successes and failures are a result of their own actions. But someone with an external locus of control, they believe their life is controlled by outside forces, fate, luck, other people.
The universe conspiring against them. That is such a key distinction, and you see it in really small, everyday things. The person with an internal locus who gets a promotion thinks, my hard work paid off. The person with an external locus thinks, wow, I guess it was just my lucky day, or the boss must have been in a good mood. They almost can't even take credit for their own successes because they don't believe they're the ones driving the car.
The universe, the government, their boss, their spouse. It's always something out there. They feel powerless because in their mind, they truly are.
And that leads directly to the second pillar, which is blame shifting. It's a classic defense mechanism. If nothing is your fault because outside forces control everything.
Then you have to blame someone or something else.
Right. I was late for work because the traffic was terrible, not I didn't leave early enough. Or I failed the test because the professor hates me, not I didn't study. It's an automatic reflex to push responsibility away.
And that constant blame shifting, that feeling of powerlessness, it can lead to the third pillar, learned helplessness.
Oh, that's such a fascinating concept. The experiments they did with dogs, right?
Yeah, the classic Seligman experiments. But in humans, it's when a person has experienced a stressful situation repeatedly, they come to believe they are incapable of changing or controlling it. So they just give up. They don't even try anymore because they've learned that their efforts are futile.
So they just accept their fate as the victim, because trying and failing is more painful than not trying at all.
Precisely. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You believe you're helpless, so you act helpless, and then bad things continue to happen, which proves you were right all along. It's a vicious cycle.
So where does this all come from? I mean, people aren't just born this way, are they?
No, not at all. It's almost always rooted in past experiences, especially childhood conditioning. Think about it. If a child grows up in an environment where they're constantly criticized, or where a parent is overbearing and solves all their problems for them,
They never learn to solve problems themselves.
right? Or alternatively, if they grew up in a chaotic or abusive environment feeling genuinely powerless, that can become their default setting as an adult. They learned early on that they were a victim, and that script just keeps playing.
And there's another piece to this, which is the reward system. It sounds strange, but there are payoffs to being the victim.
Oh, absolutely. The most powerful one is attention and sympathy.
Yeah. When you tell someone your sob story, what do? They comfort you, they give you attention, they might even help you.
For someone who feels invisible or unloved, that can be a really powerful, almost addictive validation.
It's a form of connection, even if it's a dysfunctional one. They're getting their emotional needs met, but they're doing it by broadcasting their suffering instead of, building genuine reciprocal relationships.
That makes so much sense. And it also ties into another major driver, avoiding responsibility.
The big one.
Responsibility is hard. It's scary. It means if you fail, it's on you. If you make a mistake, you have to own it. Being the victim is, in a way, easier.
So much easier. It completely absolves you. You don't have to do the hard work of self-reflection, of changing your behavior, of taking risks. You just get to say, it wasn't my fault.
Which is directly linked to the fear of failure, isn't it? If you never truly try, if you always have an external excuse ready.
Then you can never truly fail. It's a protective shell. By saying, I couldn't do it because of X, Y, and Z, you're protecting your ego from the possibility that maybe you just weren't good enough. It's a shield against inadequacy.
Wow. So it's this complex mix of past conditioning, getting a reward of sympathy, and then this deep-seated fear of being responsible and potentially failing.
It's a tangled web for sure, and it creates a very specific set of behaviors.
Okay, so let's get practical. How can you spot this in someone or, in yourself? What are the telltale signs?
Well, we've touched on the biggest one already, constant blame shifting. Nothing is ever their fault. There is always an external reason, an excuse, a person to point the finger at. It's their default response to any setback.
Yeah, total lack of personal accountability. And with that comes a lot of finger pointing in their stories. You'll notice their language is full of, he did this to me, she made me feel, they set me up to fail.
Exactly. The second sign is that they often get stuck in a loop of exaggerating their problems while minimizing their ability to solve them. A small inconvenience becomes a catastrophe.
Oh, totally. I have a paper cut. My whole day is ruined. They catastrophize, but when you offer a solution, they have a reason why every single suggestion won't work. Yes, but
is the classic phrase of the victim. It's a way of shutting down solutions because what they're really after isn't a solution, which leads to the third sign. They are constantly seeking sympathy.
Right. They aren't looking for advice, they're looking for an audience. They want you to validate their suffering. Oh, that's so awful, you poor thing. That's the response they're fishing for.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't give it to them, they can sometimes get frustrated or even angry. You're not playing your part in the script.
A fourth sign, and this is a big one for me, is that they seem to repeat the same problems over and over again. They complain about being broke but never budget. They complain about being lonely but push people away. They complain about their terrible boss, but they've had a terrible boss at their last 5 jobs.
That's a huge red flag. When the only common denominator in all your failed relationships is you, maybe it's time to look inward. But for someone with a victim mentality, that's the one place they refuse to look. The problem is always out there.
So, to recap, they blame others constantly, they exaggerate problems, they seek sympathy over solutions, and they're stuck in a loop repeating the same mistakes.
That pretty much covers the core behaviors. And as you can imagine, living this way or being around someone who lives this way is incredibly destructive.
It really is. Let's talk about why this is so dangerous, not just for the person themselves, but for everyone around them. The first and most obvious is it absolutely destroys relationships.
It's impossible to have a healthy, balanced relationship with someone who is always the victim, because a relationship requires shared responsibility. It's a two-way street.
Right. But in their world, you're either a savior or a persecutor. There's no room for just being an equal partner. You're either solving their problems for them or you're part of the problem. And that's exhausting.
Incredibly exhausting. And it breeds resentment. You get tired of being the bad guy or tired of being the constant rescuer. Eventually, people just pull away. It leads to profound isolation.
And professionally, it's a career killer. It absolutely prevents success. You can't grow, you can't learn from your mistakes if you never admit you made any.
You'll never get that promotion because you'll always be blaming your boss, your colleagues, the company, instead of looking at what skills you need to develop. You become stuck. People see you as someone who complains, not as someone who solves problems.
Exactly. But I think the most dangerous part on a personal level is that it completely strips you of your own power.
This is the core tragedy of it. By constantly giving away responsibility, you are literally giving away your power to change your life. You are making yourself a passenger in your own car.
That's a great way to put it. You're waiting for someone else to steer, for the world to change for you. And the world doesn't work that way. So you just stay stuck, feeling miserable and powerless.
And that creates these intense negativity cycles. The more you focus on what's wrong, the more you see what's wrong. Your brain literally gets rewired to scan for threats and injustices. It becomes a feedback loop of misery.
And it's contagious, too. Being around that constant negativity drains your own energy. It pulls you down. It's just a deeply unhealthy way to exist.
For everyone involved, no question.
So, if it's so destructive, why do people get stuck there? Why do some people seem to stay victims forever?
I think the biggest reason is that, after a while, it becomes their identity.
That's who they are.
Yeah, I'm the person who things always go wrong for. It's a story they've told themselves and others for so long that they don't know who they would be without it. The idea of letting go of that identity is terrifying. Who am I, if not the sufferer?
That's a deep question. And it's comfortable in a weird way, isn't it? There's a certain comfort in the familiar, even if the familiar is miserable. You know the script. You know your role.
The devil you know. And as we said before, it's reinforced by the social rewards. They continue to receive that attention and sympathy. It may be the only way they know how to get connection. If they suddenly get better,
They might lose that attention. They might have to stand on their own 2 feet, and maybe no one will be there to catch them. That's a scary thought.
it's terrifying. And all of this comes down to one simple, massive hurdle. Change requires taking responsibility.
Right. To get better, you have to first admit that you have the power to change things. And that means you have to admit that, at least in part, your current situation is a result of your own choices, your own actions, or your own inactions.
And that is a huge, painful pill to swallow. It means owning all the past mistakes. It means accepting that you weren't just a passive victim of circumstance. For many, that's just too much to face. It's easier to remain the blameless victim.
So the identity is comfortable, the rewards are consistent, and the alternative, responsibility, is terrifying. It makes sense why people get locked in.
It's a psychological fortress, and it's very, very difficult to dismantle, both from the inside and the outside.
Okay, so let's shift to the practical advice. We've all got someone like this in our lives, a friend, a family member, a coworker. How do you deal with them without losing your mind?
Yeah, without losing your mind is the key phrase. The first and most important thing is to set firm boundaries.
What does that look like in practice?
It means recognizing that you are not their therapist or their savior. You can listen, you can be compassionate, but you have to limit it. Maybe you say, I have about 10 minutes to listen, and then I have to get back to my work. You define the container. You don't let their negativity spill out and consume your whole day.
That's so important. And part of that boundary is also not rewarding the behavior. This is the hard one.
It's the hardest one, because our instinct is to offer sympathy. Oh, that's terrible. But when you do that, you're giving them the reward they're looking for. You're reinforcing the pattern.
So what do you do instead? You can't just be cold.
No, you can be empathetic but non-indulgent. You can say something like, that sounds really tough. What do you think you're going to do about it?
Ooh, I like that. You're shifting the focus from the problem to a potential solution. You're gently encouraging responsibility.
Exactly. You're steering the conversation towards action and empowerment. They might resist it. They might give you the classic yes but you hold your ground. You don't have to solve their problem for them. In fact, you shouldn't.
And that leads to the final and maybe most crucial point. You have to limit the amount of emotional energy you spend on them.
You have to. It's like an emotional black hole. They can absorb an infinite amount of your energy, and it will never be enough. You have to protect your own peace. It's not selfish, it's self-preservation.
So set boundaries on your time and energy. Don't reward the complaining with endless sympathy, and gently try to nudge them toward taking responsibility. And if they won't, you might have to create some distance.
Sometimes that's the only choice. You can't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm.
All right, for our final segment, let's turn the lens on ourselves. How do we make sure we don't fall into this trap? Because I think everyone has moments of feeling like a victim.
Oh, for sure. It's a natural human response to pain or difficulty. The key is not to set up camp there. The first step is radical personal responsibility.
What does that mean to you?
It means owning your role in everything that happens in your life. Not your fault, necessarily. Bad things happen. But your responsibility is how you respond. You always have a choice in your response. Take ownership of that choice.
I love that distinction between fault and responsibility. And tied to that is actively focusing on solutions, not problems. When something goes wrong, it's okay to feel upset for a minute. But then the next question has to be, okay, what can I do about this?
Yes? Shift from, why is this happening to me? To, what can I learn from this? And what's my next step? It's a simple change in questioning, but it's incredibly powerful. It puts you back in the driver's seat.
And that's all about building that internal locus of control we talked about at the beginning. You have to actively practice believing that you are the primary force for change in your own life. Celebrate your wins and analyze your losses to see what you could have done differently.
Exactly. It's a muscle you have to build. And finally, you have to learn to embrace accountability. Surround yourself with people who will call you out gently when you start to slip into that victim narrative.
People who will say, hey, I hear you're frustrated, but it sounds like you're just blaming everyone. What's your part in this?
That kind of friend is worth their weight in gold. Someone who holds up a mirror, not just a tissue, because that's how we grow. We grow by taking responsibility, by focusing on what we can control, and by holding ourselves accountable.
It's the complete opposite of the victim mentality. It's the mindset of a creator, of an agent in your own life.
And that's the core of it all, isn't it? Choosing to be an agent rather than a victim. It's not easy, and it's a daily practice, but it's the only path to genuine power and happiness.
Absolutely. So this week, pay attention to your own language and the language of those around you. Are you hearing blame or are you hearing responsibility? Are you seeing problems or are you seeking solutions? That small shift can change everything.
That's all the time we have for this episode of The Behavior Code. Thank you for joining us.